Members of the public have until the 15th of July to comment on the new two-pot system for workers to cash out from their retirement funds before reaching the retirement age. Under this system, South Africans will be able to access 1/3 of their retirement savings throughout their career, while 2/3 will only become accessible on retirement. Cosatu's Matthew Parks joins us to give us the union's view on this matter and whether this is a huge impact on workers. Is it a benefit or is it going to lead to detriment? Good morning to you, or good afternoon, Matthew. Thank you so much for joining us. What does it all mean, just in simple terms?
Yeah. No, good afternoon. Thanks for having us. No, we are very excited as Cosatu. This is something we've been asking, engaging, as negotiating with government and Treasury on for the last 4 years. And it's very positive because many workers in the public and the private sector are drowning in debt. Many workers, as a consequence, because of debt issues or because of family emergency medical issues or the normal financial pressures, often resign from their jobs so they can cash out the entire pension fund. And that creates a crisis because that worker is now unemployed, no longer has a salary, and they also deplete their pensions. So this is a positive thing because going forward, from the 1st of March next year, there'll be a two-pot pension regime, which will be binding upon all pension funds, both public and private sector pension funds, where 1/3 of your pension will go into a savings pot, which, as you said, you can access once a year. And then 2/3 will go into a preservation pot, which you would access if you're retrenched, or when you retire. We think that's going to help workers in many ways because one is that they can get access to the savings third when they have financial pressures, debt, emergency medical care, and so forth, whatever the issue might be. It avoids workers having to resign. It avoids workers depleting the entire pension fund when they don't need to access all of it, but just a limited portion of it. It's also going to incentivize workers to save more, knowing that once a year they can access the savings pot. And this is going to put workers in a better space when they reach retirement. They'll have more funds actually saved up and have less debt as well. So that's a positive thing. We are having further engagements, but Treasury has released it as per our negotiations and our agreement with Treasury for public comment. Once public comment is closed in the middle of July, Treasury will take into account those issues. They will then submit the bills to Parliament around August. Parliament will be able to fast track it because these are going to be tax amendment bills, and those are normally fast tracked through Parliament. So it will be passed by Parliament, we hope, by the end of November. That gives space for the President to sign it. It gives some time for SARS, the Revenue Authority, to adjust its tax systems. And of course, it gives space for the pension funds to adjust their investment portfolio. But the target date for implementation is the 1st of March. So we're looking quite forward to it because it's going to give a lot of relief to millions of workers in the public sector and in the private sector who are really drowning in debt. It's going to be a significant injection of cash into the economy. It's going to help workers pay down their debt. And we think longer term is going to avoid, in the long term, a depletion of pension funds, which we currently have under the existing laws.
Okay, let's look at the petitions, maybe, or signatories, people that have engaged with the white paper, so to speak, that how many of these members have actually responded? Because the 15th of July is really around the corner. And if pension fund members are not aware of this particular new system, what does that then mean for Parliament to process?
Yeah, so this has been a discussion since 2020, May 2020, when we first raised it as Cosatu with Treasury and government. There has been a draft bill in Parliament actually in August 2020, drafted by one of the members of Parliament. There's actually been a bill that Treasury tabled at Parliament in September last year, which provided a basis for it. We raised the need to make further additions to it to make sure we cover workers fully, make sure also that when workers, when the law comes into effect next year in March, the workers have the immediate access which they need, and that the bill provides for immediate access as well. So there is space. It's not a new issue. It's been a discussion we've been having since 2020. And so Treasury will now take into account public comments up until the 15th of July. Parliament also will take into account public comments as well, because the National Assembly Standing Committee of Finance and the National Council of Provinces Select Committee of Finance will also have 2 rounds of comments as well for further comments. And of course, over the period of between now and between March next year, pension funds will need to undertake consumer education, so pension fund members are aware of their rights and responsibilities. As Cosatu will also be embarking on a mass education campaign of our members, our unions, our shop stewards, our workers, pension fund members too, so everybody is aware of it. But I can also say very confidently, this is one of the most popular, long-desired pension reforms by workers across the country. We have been inundated by workers who are drowning in debt. They're very keen to see this coming into effect. That's why we're also very clear as Cosatu that this must come into effect on the 1st of March next year, because workers are drowning in debt, wherever they are, whether they're nurses or teachers or police officers, whether they work in the private sector, at banks, at insurance companies, wherever they might work. Workers are struggling. Workers have been supporting relatives who have lost jobs. Workers have lost wages, and they're drowning in debt for no fault of their own, but merely trying to take care of their families and survive in a very difficult economic situation. So this is going to provide huge relief, and we can say very confidently, workers are very keen to see this happening. And we think it's not a reckless way. It's going to provide a sustainable approach where you give workers access to a third, you incentivize them to save more, and you protect the two-thirds for preservation. And we've also been quite heartened by some of the insurance or the pension funds as well, who saying they think this actually makes sense given South Africa's economic situation that workers find themselves in. And in the
Yeah,
longer
no,
term,
no,
it's
we
actually going to benefit
definitely,
workers
yeah, Matthew,
and the economy.
we do understand the economic climate, and as you were saying, just workers being under pressure with all these other conditions. But how do we interface for those that still want to contribute and submit their views on this particular process?
So the immediate option now is people want to make comments, and we encourage them to do so. They make comments to Treasury. Treasury has, published this document on Friday yesterday. So on the Treasury website, which is treasury.gov.za, there's a statement there with email addresses where people could access the bills. The bills are on the website, and there's an email address where they can make the comments too. So they can do that until the 15th of July. They could also make the comments to Cosatu as well, and we would also share them with Treasury colleagues too. Once the bill goes to Parliament in August, the Standing Committee of Finance will probably around August or September also call for public comments, and those are going to open to any member of the public, whomever they are, to raise their views, whether they support it or they don't support it. And there'll be public hearings too, as always, and those public hearings are open to anybody in the public to make their views heard as well. And of course, when the bills go to the National Council of Provinces, they'll also do the same. They'll ask for public comments, and again, people can make their views heard during hearings too. So there's 3 steps left. They're inclusive, and public comments are always encouraged. And of course, anybody can raise their views with Cosatu, with our unions as well. And we'll also take them into account as well.